Welcome to St. Peter's and Hove. I'm Father Alexander, and today I want to take you on our 282nd step in our walking tour through the Bible. And I want to look at chapters 37, 38, 39 of the prophecy of Jeremiah. Now, these chapters essentially fill out what happened next, the end of Jeremiah's active ministry. They're sort of historical passages, autobiographical passages, if you like, in which we're told what happened. Jeremiah, first of all, confronts the king Zedekiah, the last king of Judah, and tells him that if he goes out and surrenders to the king of Babylon, he will be safe. But if he does not do that, the city will be destroyed. Lo and behold, Zedekiah refuses to listen to this very good advice from the prophet Jeremiah. There are two reasons why he should listen to the prophet Jeremiah. First of all, the prophet is speaking on behalf of the Lord, and the prophet is credible. Why is the prophet credible? Because he has not found favor with human beings. He has sacrificed a great deal for the truth, for his adherence to the Lord. Therefore, I think he has credibility. He's not one of those people who tells you what you want to hear. Therefore, I think he has the ring of truth. Second thing is, of course, it's common sense. You can't fight the Chaldeans. They are the great superpower. You're just the puny kingdom of Judah. Okay, the king of Judah and his war party think that the Egyptians are going to come and rescue them. Jeremiah tells them this is wishful thinking. And Zedekiah will not believe what he has said. Now, what happens is that Zedekiah at the same time won't have Jeremiah put to death as the war party wants. He keeps him in the court of the guard. Later on, the war party, this is chapter 8:38, they have Jeremiah they say to the king, you must have this man put to death. Chapter 38, verse 4. He is unquestionably disheartening the remaining soldiers in the city, and all the people too, by talking like this. Okay, he's a defeatist. This man is not seeking the welfare of the people, but their ruin. He is in your hands, as you know, King Zedekiah answered, for the king is powerless to oppose you. So King Zedekiah makes it clear that he is a pawn in the hands of the war party. He has lost all control over events. So they took Jeremiah and put him in the storage well of the king's son. Now, basically what they do is they didn't have the guts to kill Jeremiah. They think what we'll do is this, we'll put him down the well. So he's lowered down the well in ropes rather than thrown down the well. At the bottom of the well, there's no water, just mud. And he's left there. And the idea is sitting in the mud or up to his neck in the mud, and he's going to die in the well. So the hypocrisy is, oh, we didn't kill Jeremiah. He died of natural causes. Oh, yeah, right. You chucked him down the well. You left him to starve to death. But luckily, a man called Ebed Melech the Cushite, whose motivation is unclear, but who's clearly a good person, he intercedes. He was a eunuch, incidentally, who attended to the palace, heard about this, and he came to the king and he said, for goodness sake, don't allow this to happen. So the king then allows Ebed Melech the Cushite to have Jeremiah hauled out of the well and thus save his life. Now, in my children's Bible, one of the greatest pictures of the illustrations, which I came back to again and again as a 7-year-old, was the picture of Jeremiah in the well. I don't know why, but I found it an incredibly interesting picture. The picture of Jeremiah in the well is one we should carry around with us because this is a genuine prophet. This is the sign that he was a genuine prophet. They wanted to kill him. They didn't have the guts to kill him. They tried to kill him. They plotted to kill him. They tried to invoke plausible deniability. Oh, we didn't really kill him. He died of natural causes. They hated him like hell because he told them the truth. And the church nowadays is in the what's the word I'm looking for, in the place of the prophet Jeremiah. It has to tell the truth to human beings, even when that truth is most unpalatable. And in return, the human beings will want to throw the church down the well, exclude the church from the national conversation, and indeed kill the church. Of course, they will welcome false prophets, the ones who make them feel good about themselves, but the real prophets they will want to kill. So that is the sign of being a genuine prophet, being countercultural. How many times have we heard this? So many times I've heard so many sermons, so many talks for the last 30 years about how the church was to be countercultural. What I haven't seen is the church actually being countercultural. I suppose many of the documents of the church were countercultural, particularly some of the great encyclicals of St. John Paul II. Fides et Ratio was definitely countercultural, though people shrug that off because nobody's talking about philosophy every day in the pub, are they, in Britain? Um, uh, Evangelium Vitae, in the defense of human life, was certainly countercultural. And of course, Veritatis Splendor was certainly countercultural. From my point of view, the most important of these encyclicals of John Paul II. We've got to insist on this counterculturalness. But unfortunately, it's very hard because the culture which we're countering has marched through all the institutions, by which I include, of course, the church. The church has been assimilated into the culture, and therefore it's very hard, even in the church, to proclaim the truth. A lot of people will say, "Whoosh, you can't say that." Anyway, they said that, no doubt, to Jeremiah. They said, "Oh, you're discouraging people," and so on and so forth. They put him down the well. He kept on speaking. Anyway, what happens next is he's taken out of the well, and uh, he is sort of semi-rehabilitated, and he's looked after to some extent. He was given provisions and so on, and he stays in the court of the guard until the city falls. The city falls after a long siege, and what happens is, in chapter 39, as the Chaldeans come in through the breach of the walls, the king and his closest allies make a swift exit through the king's garden through a back gate. Then Nebuchadnezzar has the king is captured with his courtiers, with his war party, the people who got him into this mess in the first place, and Nebuchadnezzar has they're captured, they're brought to Nebuchadnezzar. The king's sons are killed in front of him, his courtiers are put to death, and then the poor king Zedekiah, who really should have listened to Jeremiah, he has his eyes put out, and then he's taken off to Babylon. So the last thing he sees is the death, the violent death of his sons and the violent death of his friends. And then he is taken off. And Jeremiah has foretold this. They have misled you. They have triumphed over you, those friends of yours. Your feet have sunk in the mud. They are up and away. That's chapter 38, verse 22. So the king should have listened. He's treated abominably. He's treated exceptionally cruelly. And yet, if only he had listened to good advice, this would not have happened. It's certainly not God's fault that he's treated like this, not Jeremiah's fault. It is the fault of the perpetrators, the Chaldeans, who are unkind and cruel people, but it's also the fault of the king himself for not listening to good advice. And then, of course, Nebuchadnezzar appoints a governor for what is now the province of Judah. That governor is then murdered by some other Judahites. And then those Judahites flee to Egypt to get away from the possible repercussions of their act, and they take Jeremiah with them. And Jeremiah predicts when he's in Egypt that they will not be able to get away from the Chaldeans after all. Jeremiah's thought is that the people should accept their fate, but of course, what they do is they refuse to accept their fate, hence the assassination of the governor and the fleeing and so on. They just make their fate worse. And it's probable at that point that Jeremiah, at some point, living in exile in Egypt, dies there. He does. He tells them not to go to Egypt, but of course they will not listen to him. Jeremiah's career is a career of abject failure. Everything he says, they go and do the opposite. Jeremiah, we hope, did not die in despair. He was a man of faith, after all. But Jeremiah, if he died with any satisfaction, probably died saying, "Well, I did warn you, but you wouldn't listen." And that is pretty damn grim. We don't want that for ourselves. The worst thing is when we say to people, "Well, I did tell you, but you wouldn't listen." You've made it worse for yourself by your stupid actions. Why can't you listen? Why are you so stupid? the only point of me being here is to tell you and to show up how stupid you are and how ungrateful you are and how unbelieving you are. So Jeremiah is a light who shines and illuminates the darkness around him and throws into relief the darkness around him. He shows us just what a worthless bunch the kings of Judah were at the end, and what a worthless bunch their courtiers were, and what a worthless bunch the leading men of Judah were. He was the only one who had any insight. He was the only one, along with his sidekick Baruch, he was the only one who saw the truth. He was the only one who truly believed. Now, if you go back a bit, we had that prophet Elijah who said, the prophets of Baal are 450 men. Of the prophets of Yahweh, of the Lord, I alone am left. And if the prophet Elijah could say that, certainly the prophet Jeremiah could say that many hundreds of years later. I alone am left. And then, of course, if we look forward in the Bible, we have another solitary voice, vox clamantis in deserto, the voice of one crying in the desert, prepare ye the way of the Lord, namely John the Baptist, who gathered a great following, but started off as a lonely voice crying in the desert and ended up, of course, being murdered by his political enemies, as Jeremiah didn't. But Jeremiah only got away with it by the skin of his teeth. Being countercultural comes at a price. Being countercultural is exceptionally depressing. We live, insofar as the church is being countercultural, in excessively depressing times, particularly in Europe. We must try and cheer up. Possibly the best way to cheer up is not to read the book of Jeremiah. We must try and cheer up. There's still more to go with Jeremiah, but I'll probably finish that, I hope, in a few sessions' time. All the very best. Don't be depressed. Have faith in God. Be cheerful. Oh, mind you, Jeremiah's no help if you're looking for cheerfulness. All the best. Bye.